And we are live. Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right, Zachary. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. If you could use one word to describe the week, what would it be?
Oh man. Well, maybe I'll use the word windy because it was so windy today, but also full of new opportunities and interesting creative inspirations coming our way at Tech Change. So maybe I'll use the word windy if that works on the
You
spot.
know what? It's been windy in Atlanta as well. So that wind came all the way over the West Coast, obviously, up from the South, down from the North, hit Atlanta and hit you in DC. For anybody watching, please let us know who you are, where you are. Drop it in the comments. We want you to engage with us in this discussion. Nick, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you
Yeah.
also want to talk about. Our entire focus is really about opportunities for teachers in the world of technology. And you really do that and you help people do that. How are you doing, my friend LinkedIn user? Put your name in there because for some reason you sometimes it'll give us your profile and sometimes it won't. So tell us who you are and where you're coming from. Nick, what is Tech Change for those who are watching who don't know? And how do you help support this work?
Hey, thanks so much, Zachary, for the question. And so listen, Tech Change, we're an online learning company. We work primarily with nonprofits and social sector orgs. But I tell you, I myself am a teacher. I was a high school English teacher way back in the day, 15 years ago, did my student teaching and taught both kindergarten, actually, both elementary and high school senior English. So look, I have been in the classroom and I love it, but I also am excited to chat with some educators here today too about the world of educational technology beyond the classroom.
Jennifer says that it is chilly in San Antonio. When it is chilly in San Antonio, we know that it is across the board some cold weather, right? Because we're feeling it in Atlanta. We know he has it in DC, but the fact that it is in San Antonio, that says a lot about this powerful north wind. Listen, so you said that you were an English teacher, and you also transitioned over. So I have two questions for you,
Yeah.
Nick. Question number one, what was your favorite novel that you used for instruction as a high school teacher? Is question number one.
Well, let me tell you. So I was really into. Hey, Craig. Welcome, Craig. Excited to have you here. I was into Toni Morrison, and I taught Beloved, and then I taught Song of Solomon in my high school class, and then I taught after that Hamlet. So I don't know if you have any Toni Morrison in your bookshelf over there, but that was fun to.
I have every book Tony's ever written. And this is my original copy of
Wow.
Beloved,
Wow.
earmarked, written in
I love
the
that.
whole nine.
Such an amazing book. So yeah, I was a high school English teacher, loved it, and taught for a few years, and then decided I wanted to really think about the broader education in the broader sense, and got a degree in education for peace and human rights in Costa Rica, and that took me on a very different path. So got to work with teachers from all over the world in that sense, in that experience, which was quite rich.
And Nick, when you talk about then leaving this work, you love Toni Morrison, you loved the lit. I mean, that's why we become English teachers, right? Many of us, especially the secondary level, right? So I know elementary people watching, you're a teacher because you love children. Your heart says, I love kids. That's not why I became an educator. It wasn't because I love somebody else's children. I started because I had a passion for the content. Like I loved the literature. I loved reading and writing, loved it. And that passion then eventually became to a love for helping young adults. So the love for the children came after the love of the content. But with that being said, Nick, what made you then transition from this, or how did you transition from education into being like a tech guru?
Well, look, it was gradual and over many years, but I will say, I felt, even in the couple years I was teaching, I felt the crushing weight of trying to deal with administrations, deal with parents. There were a lot of things that encumbered that job experience that took me away from that love of teaching, the love of the literature, the love of the kids. that were like, what the heck? Why am I not able to sort of distill this down to? So I will say there was a lot of, enormously stressful, hard to get sleep. That lifestyle, I really do feel like both teaching kindergarten and teaching high school, one of some of the hardest jobs I've ever had. So I will say that, but transitioning to tech, it was a gradual process. I think when in grad school, I realized that there were so many people around the world who needed access to education, a lot of adult learners out there who were looking for new ways to connect to content. And there were not a lot of great platforms trying to do teaching and learning using the power of the internet, using the power of technology. This was like 2007, 2008. You had tools like Blackboard that were helping us teach better in the classroom, but everybody hates Blackboard. And so we kind of said, a group of us in the beginning of Tech Change, could we build our own courses and teach cohorts of people from all over the world on topics related to, in our case, kind of social impact, nonprofit meets tech topics. And lo and behold, there was a latent audience. There were people out there that were hungry for this content that had no way to go to grad school or get access to traditional learning. And the online was the only way for them. And so really, I think we realized pretty early that we tapped into something special.
That's a powerful statement, because I think for the first time, we have a whole generation of people all across the spectrum, right? Our Gen Z kids are kind of realizing that they may not need to pursue education in a traditional route. Now, they're pursuing education, but they're doing it in paths that are non-traditional. They're not saying I need a degree. They're saying I need the learning, and they're going to organizations like Tech Change and what you guys provide to get that. But not only getting it from organizations like that, they're getting it from social media. They're learning massive amounts of information in short micro bursts, which is good, but could be bad because we don't know to what extent it's credible, the source of their information.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching, please shoot and drop your questions in the chat. We have Lauren, who said here that, again, she became a teacher because she wanted to teach that she never had. And now she is the designer that she needs to be.
I love that.
It's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
It's a powerful, powerful statement. And so there are teachers out there, just like both of us, who, are at different levels and places in their career. And so I have a series of questions for you about that and kind of what people need to do, because I always want to make sure that for any of our people watching, that we're giving them actionable steps about what they may want to do. Do you have any, because I'll ask tons of questions. Like, I interview all the time. Nick, do you have any questions for me before I ask you my series of questions?
Well, I do, Zachary. I want to know, you just mentioned that, Gen Z, we are, finding Gen Z loves learning through these social media platforms. You have taught me so much about the power of TikTok for learning. I had a lot of doubts. I was very skeptical. We had an amazing conversation the other day. I think that is, something worth sharing a little bit with, why you believe so deeply that TikTok is a platform for education. And then we can talk about some of these transferable skills for these teachers.
And I'm so glad you asked me that question, Nick, because we have a lot of adults who are right now streaming. And let me tell you, I'm talking directly to you, viewer. I know you. I know that you're thinking I know you look at TikTok. I know you sit down and you look at the TikTok. You laugh a lot at the TikTok, viewer, but you're an adult. You are a grown professional, and you have a career, and you have a family, you have a lot of obligations. And you're saying to yourself, there is no value in me being on TikTok, dancing and doing any of the things these kids are doing. And I say that you're right. There is no value in you getting on TikTok to dance, because nobody's going to want to see it. No matter how great you are, that's not what anyone our age or even younger than us will want to see. But there's a lot that you have to offer younger people in Gen Z and older people that they do need from you. And that is the power of TikTok. You have a niche. You have a knowledge base. You have something that you can add to the greater world that will allow you to have a micro influence that could eventually cascade out into a macro influence. And that's what TikTok brings to the table. by the unique power of that algorithm, you are able to literally go viral overnight. You are able to have a small piece of short form content get viewed by millions of people within a 48-hour time span if what you have is valuable and deemed as something that is shareable. So that is the power of TikTok. We've seen people who literally now earn $100,000 a month in opportunity from being on the app and building a platform. It is the future of social media, and social media is the future of marketing in this country and really in this whole entire world. It's the future. So we need to get in on it early to learn how to master this platform. And it's not too late to do it. You can literally start on TikTok today. Use the simple features that should be used by the adults. We're not using all those ridiculous, glittery, magic, turn myself into a frog app icons. All you really need is the green screen. Learn how to use green screen and you're good to go. It's just that simple.
Don't worry about the outfit changes or the couples prank videos. But, Zachary, because I was on, you inspired me. I went on and I was like, man, imagine if the educators watching now, like, figured out, myself included, figured out how to package all the things that we know and know how to teach, right? These are our superpowers. How do we connect those to this medium in a way that is, impactful and valuable for this audience? Because I really do think this medium can be so much more than it currently is being used for. And I think you're onto something.
And we're the ones to jump out there, use it, and show it. And so Craig wants to know, we're using, for LinkedIn Live, we're using a platform called StreamYard. And so in order to use StreamYard, you have to get permission from LinkedIn. You simply fill out the paper, you go to StreamYard, you get an account, and then you try to link your LinkedIn account to your StreamYard, and they will authorize it or not. And if you're able to do it, you can then stream live to LinkedIn. And then Craig also wants to know, for those seeking to work on helping and skill the next generation, what do you see as the core skills to develop and career paths that are growing? So, of course, Nick is the expert, but I'll give you my non-expert opinion and tell you this as an educator. The skills are the same skills in many ways identified by the Committee for 21st Century Skills, and you really need to ensure that the next generation of learners know how to communicate effectively. And when I say communicate effectively, I mean that they're able to communicate with other people. They're able to communicate in small groups, large groups. They're able to communicate with themselves. And they understand themselves to a certain level with a level of EQ that goes inward and outward. And they know how to communicate effectively on social media. If we're not teaching them that, they're able to, and liable to make massive missteps that could cost them their careers and their viability in the workforce. In addition to being able to communicate effectively, we have to teach the next generation how to effectively think critically. If they cannot think through problems strategically, and if they cannot solve real world scenarios and issues, they are not going to be viable in this workforce. Those are the two skills that I think, in my opinion, are most essential that anyone can and will need to learn. What do you think, Nick?
Hey, I love how you've answered that. And I do think, communication is so important. And I'm really trying to push myself to, again, building off the last question, have an expansive concept of communication. When I feel like when we were going to school, it was all about writing. You got to be a good writer to be able to communicate. And I still think that's important. But I also think how to blend that with some of these more visual forms of communication and create space for that. And I know a big part of our program at LinkedIn is trying to build space for video on the platform, so that Gen Z and other younger, demographics can actually bring a lot of the energy and the creativity that they are manifesting on TikTok into LinkedIn. How that will resonate with more experienced generations, I think, is a big question. I do think we have a responsibility to leave space for that. So I love that. I love the critical thinking dimension that you shared. I guess I would add the ability to talk to somebody who doesn't agree with you with respect. And I think that is another real challenge, very germane to our current climate. How do we create space for kindness and respect alongside the traditional skills? You're right. I mean, that's a big missing piece. We want to jump on that.
But it's real. Everyone, especially in this very polarized climate that is in no way being de-escalated. Like we're living in a time that isn't where these issues aren't being de-escalated. They're only being heightened. We have to learn how to disagree respectfully and how not to take certain things personally so that we can still work. We can still produce. We can still do the work that we need to do to have our businesses and our society function. So I agree with you so much about that.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about some transferable skills? Because I feel like we got some speakers here.
That's a big thing. Yep, I agree.
And so I want to hear from you too on this. Like, when you think about a teacher, what are the skills that allow them to manifest their superpowers in disciplines beyond the classroom? What kind of? And I got some thoughts here too, but I want to hear from you first. Zachary, what do you think? What are some of those things that transfer well that they know how to do super effectively in the classroom?
I think that's a great question. I'm gonna tell you. I think that, and there was this amazing Wall Street Journal article that came out, and for all of you watching, it says teachers are quitting and companies are hot to hire them. And we're going to talk about that. This question, Nick, is exactly why they're hot to be hired. Teachers have, first and foremost, a level of stamina that most careers don't have when it comes to work, right? So when you, even in college, and you start the process of learning how to be a teacher, you're having to do practicums, you're having to complete courses. Nick got a degree in English ed. He was reading like 3 novels a week towards the end of his degree program, in addition to doing student teaching or doing his practicum hours, in addition to having whatever type of social life that he had. That's how it begins. But when you actually get in that classroom, you are working from the beginning of the school day with children to the end of the school day with children. You have a before school duty, you have an after school duty, and then you have to go home and you have to write lesson plans. You have to grade student work. You have to input those grades into the grading system. You have to take phone calls, parent conferences. All of that builds up a level of stamina and stick-with-itness that teachers have that may not be as developed in other career fields, and maybe shouldn't be as developed, maybe should even be developed, right? Maybe the future of this workforce or this career field will change and alter so that educators can have more honest, valuable, valid social lives on their own. But right now, that's, I think, skill number 1. And I think skill number 2 is that your teachers authentically know how to bring their full selves into the workforce. Let me explain what I mean by that. Clearly, you can tell that I'm an extremely extroverted, gregarious, outgoing type of personality. But that isn't every teacher. That really wasn't even most of the teachers that I work with. Many of my colleagues and friends who were teachers were very introverted, and they were a little bit shy and quiet outside of their classrooms. And they were just as effective as I was, if not in some cases better, because they knew their strengths, they knew their skills, and they knew how to show up fully every single day. And that is a big part of being able to succeed in any career path. That's what I think. What do you think, Nick?
Hey, I love those answers. And I really like that concept, show up fully, but the ability to juggle multiple things at a time and be able to develop those curriculum plans. I love this addition here from Laureen here. Being able to communicate effectively, that you can transition skill sets in one job to another. The 2 big ones I was going to mention, and then we can talk maybe a bit about tech, are project management and facilitation. And this is our world at Tech Change. If I could hire only teachers, I probably would, and I have hired many. But the ability to do that lesson planning, as you say, to be able to deliver that lesson planning according to a clock, to make sure that your students get certain things, get certain outputs from that experience, to creatively design it so that they're engaged, not looking at their phones. All of that, in my mind, is about 2 things. It's about project management. You have to think about how you're going to get from A to B with this audience to drive those learning outcomes. And you have to facilitate. You have to actively think about how you're constantly connecting dots creatively between and among those kids or those humans in your classroom. And that is a hugely transferable skill. That in any business setting, in any, now that we're all virtual, it's even more important that we're thinking about facilitation. A lot of white collar jobs have transitioned to Zoom. So our whole orientation at Tech Change is how do we help facilitate conversations through this kind of medium And I think teachers are just, they have that superpower, even if they're not extroverted or they find themselves more introverted, they have thought really critically about facilitation and engagement, how to get that kid in the back of the classroom to pay attention and to contribute meaningfully. That's the kind of thing that I think transfers really well. So project management and facilitation are big for me.
I agree 100%. I think those are, and they have it. You're right. Teachers have it. They know how to manage multiple projects, and many of them know how to plan to the T, and they know how to get up and get out and facilitate with their, with who they are and how they are. Becky says self-directed, constantly iterating processes of collecting qualitative and quantitative data to drive organizational outcomes, acting as a consultant to unite multiple stakeholders through clear communication. So many great skills. I agree. Becky summed it up so beautifully. Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs for teachers and tech? When we have educators who are watching right now, they want to know where are the jobs? What can they do? How can they find the jobs?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zachary. So, one of the things I do on LinkedIn is I curate endless numbers of job posts for folks who are trying to break into the social sector, the nonprofit sector, the ed tech sector. So for teachers, I think the jobs, there are a lot of companies that are trying to figure out how the pandemic has changed education at every level, whether it's K-12, whether it's higher ed, or whether we're talking about adult learners. There are companies that are building products and platforms and experiences that really try and figure out how we now navigate this virtual world that is, for many intents and purposes, here to stay. It's going to endure. And if it doesn't just live virtually, it will live in some hybrid form. So I'm seeing a lot of companies hiring for instructional design. This is a very common job, right? How do you design a learning experience? Usually it's digital, for an audience. How do you build curriculum and content? How do you think about it both from an asynchronous, like a self-paced format learning? We think self-paced, we think usually compliance, but there are many types of courses that live in a self-paced format. And then the more like facilitated live, we want to build cohorts of learners and we want to have them interacting in some way. We want that interaction to still be virtual in some sense. So like I said, I think there are companies trying to figure this out at every stage. And a number of K-12 folks who are companies that are trying to figure out the K-12 space right now, which I think has the most maybe cross-pollination with this audience.
I agree. I agree. Happy to see again, so many people like just jumping in and chiming in. One thing, Nick, that I was thinking about when I was really thinking through this and really wanting to ensure that we really added value to our viewers is the reality that so many jobs are being so carefully gatekept, right? Like, unfortunately, there are too many jobs out there that are about, it's not what you know, it's about who you know. What do you say to that? Like, how can we, like, there's an educator out there watching who literally saw this pop up on their somehow, right? God sent it to them, universe founder. They saw it on your link feed, my feed, on Twitter. Someone reposted, they saw it. And they're like, yes, I am ready to make a shift. I want out of this job right now. I want to get a career in tech. But what when they go out and apply, it's like, I'm going to call back. They don't. What can they do? What can we do for them?
The front door is usually closed, and that's true. And look, and we know that the front door is disproportionately closed based on a lot of reasons in America, right? But like that there is an unfair advantage that some populations have, some backgrounds have, that some degrees have. But I do think that one of the tactics we can all use is LinkedIn. And Zachary, you and I are in this program now, like. One of the things I tell teachers is first thing, like get that LinkedIn profile where you need it to be. Think of that as your resume, but don't stop there. Like think about how you are going to start to build relationships on the platform that are going to get you that job. And I think you do that through commenting and posts. I think you do that through your own content. If you're a teacher, you have a built-in expertise. You know something better than anybody else. You have a superpower. how do you bring some of that content, some of that expertise to some cadence of posting on the platform? Or if you're not there yet, how do you find a couple people like Zachary whose content you love, and just sort of like every day or every couple days when Zachary's posting, how do you drop a comment that's meaningful, that engages? What does that do? It gives you that visibility. It starts to allow you to organically build some virtual relationships with people, and network. And then when you do apply for jobs, you have some standing with that person. You have some ability, potentially some relationship built, so that you're not just a face in the crowd or a resume in the stack. So, I think for me, it's like, it does take some time. It does take some energy. But at the same time, I believe deeply that teachers have so much to give, and we all benefit if they engage more with some of these social media platforms, like we talked about earlier.
I love it. Look now, don't be coming no, I ain't got no job for you in tech. I ain't got no tech jobs to give you, but I agree. Like, definitely, I think that's a really smart thing to do, is to, one, target and follow people that are in fields that you may want to pursue, but also add value to the platform. Like, this is your chance to build up your level of expertise. So when a job seeker, when an employee seeker goes out to find someone, or you have applied and they look you up, they see your expertise displayed right there. They see organically what you know, what you share, and what you bring to the table. I think that I agree with you. You mentioned the word resume. How valuable are resumes in 2022, Nick?
I mean, I hate them. I mean, I will look at them when people apply to me, but what I really look at, Zachary, is the cover letter. I want to know if somebody like been to the website, do they have an opinion about the company? Do they really want this job? Because if they're just, sending 100 resumes out and everything is form, the resume and the cover letter, then like, I don't, we're a small company, so we're not looking to just churn and burn through applicants. We want to find people that really want to be here. That can be different for other types of hiring, but I would say that's the first thing, is you got to have it, right? You got to have it, because so many jobs do require it. But I do think, to me, that's like such a secondary or tertiary consideration after this LinkedIn journey. I see Becky's got a comment here. Do we want to take this?
I love it. Take it, Nick. Look at this. I love it.
All right. So Becky's saying, I think a lot of us educators passionate about EdTech are pursuing a career that can allow us to address more systemic issues that we have only been able to manually address on a small reactive scale in the classroom. When you add the funding, creativity, and talent found in an EdTech company, especially a successful startup, that impact is really exciting. And I think, Becky, that is the power of the technology and the medium, is to amplify and to affect more lives. But I think what you also touched on is that it's a creative journey that you're on with other humans with other superpowers. And to me, that's really what we've tried to figure out at Tech Change, and what I see a lot of ed tech companies that are awesome. When you put an educator in the same room as a graphic designer, in the same room as a videographer, in the same room as a programmer, and you say, like, what can we do with our collective superpowers to make as many people as possible's lives better? That's where the real magic happens. So great comment. And I think hopefully this is getting some folks who are in education excited about how your talents could blend with some of these types of teams.
And what's sad is that too often educators don't have the chance to be in a room with an architect and a designer and a videographer. They're not getting those experiences, and they're not able to see how their skills translate over, and how what they bring to the table is so valued and so wanted. So I think it would be great if there were more spaces that could exist where there could be cross-career connections made.
And again, I think just that article you shared, I think there are more people waking up to the fact that teachers are like dramatically underfunded and burned out and not getting the respect they deserve. But I love this tip from my friend Greg here. Look, rule number one in life and in social media is give as much as you can, and don't expect to take. And when you give, you will be very, I think, pleasantly surprised by how much. It's not just karma. I really do believe deeply that there is a mechanic here, that like giving does lead to so much value creation. for you as a human, but for the world. And it's why I love LinkedIn, because I do think there are enough people doing it, but there's also a lot of people on LinkedIn that are just like, I got my new job, I graduated from school. It's a little bit of the self-aggrandizing. If we can tip that scale to more of the giving, I think we'll all be better off.
And it's how we've traditionally seen and used LinkedIn. And the good thing is that is changing, right? Like LinkedIn is evolving as a platform, as every social media platform does. And it's really becoming a place that's intended to give value to all of its members. And so, Nick and I are going to have part 2 of this conversation via audio rooms on next Friday, same time, where you guys will be able to jump in and talk with us. And we can hear your voice, you can hear our voice, and use that new piece, of the LinkedIn platform. And we'll talk about that, as well as our journey as members of the inaugural Creator Accelerator program, and answer any questions that you guys have, and really, dive deeply, into that. Nick, do you have a job that you've recently seen that just screams like this is perfect for a teacher who's ready to go?
Yeah, I was actually, as we were talking, going to dig up, and I'm not sure how I can do it, like share some links. Maybe I'll do it afterwards.
Send me the link and I can post it up. I can post it live on my other screen.
I got a couple things for you, Zachary, and for the folks watching. So this is a post I wrote on Wednesday, which is all about, and this includes you, but these are 20 people to follow who are just doing incredible things across the ed tech sector.
And this is Tech Change's homepage for everyone out there. So I look at that, definitely check that out. And so now I'm going to copy, Nick, I'm going to copy your link again. And Nick, how did you look at this amazing rainbow coalition?
Yeah, it really is. It's a little bigger now, but it still is quite rainbow coalition.
It says that you value diversity. It says that this is a place where everybody needs to be represented, but also included in the work. And the two things are a little bit different. And a lot of companies are missing the mark on it. So kudos to you for that.
That's great. Yeah, we're really, really passionate about the team and that commitment. So, that social change work really does matter.
So let me make this a little bit bigger. 1 million messages. And so here we go. So this is, can I enlarge it? Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger. Can you see that?
I can see it, yeah. And but you will have to minimize our chats. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Close those. So look, friends, this is a post that I put up, and maybe we can share this. You can find this pretty easily on my page, but these are just 20 people that I follow regularly in ed tech. And the people that I think are posting the best jobs are the top few here, Kara and Jeff. And they are really trying to help teachers like y'all figure out how to make this transition. But as you see here, I have a number of Kara's great. She's got she'll post, a couple times a week, 15 or so jobs. She does a lot, and you'll see in e-learning and instructional design. And Jeff does a lot, more traditional classroom type jobs that transition to ed tech. So the two together, I think, are a good combo. But that post will give you not just the kind of job post, but also some of the leading people. I think like this Matthew Tower here has an amazing newsletter that talks about ed tech and where the funding is going. So if you're trying to think, well, we're looking for the jobs, he talks about the deals. He talks about for instance, the 2U and edX merger, which was a big kind of ed tech happening over the past few months. And so what does that mean? That means that those types of places are hiring for usually hundreds of jobs at a time. And then there's a couple more in here that I think might be interesting. Like Jeremy is a former classmate of mine who used to work at LinkedIn and he talks all about how you get that big ed tech Silicon Valley job and how you transfer your skills. There's some in here that really focus more on international development, social impact, and ed tech. So I think starting here, this is a great list of people. But I also do occasionally, Zachary, I'll put up 20 posts in ed tech from various organizations and types of education jobs. And I think just starting to get accustomed to thinking expansively about the types of jobs that you might want to do is part of this exercise, right? It's quite hard when you leave the classroom and be like, what are my skills going to transfer? What's out there, especially when everything is happening remotely. Like there's just so much opportunity to rethink your journey that even 2 years ago wasn't possible.
That's a really good point, right? Like you have to know how the skills that you have and what you bring to the table can translate over, and that can help guide your search and help you find, your place. And so my good friend Candace, how you doing, my love? She works in the tech industry. So Candace, comment away when, as we say something that may resonate. This is your whole career, sweetie. You've been doing this for a long time. And we know you have a lot of value to also add. And Lauren says, this is so clutch. I got an interview just from reaching out and connecting from that post. So Nick, like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to take that idea. I'm going to start every week doing a top 10 to know and follow. Yeah. Now I ain't got no 20, right? I can't give you no 20. It's way too many people. Nick has 120,000, are they called followers on LinkedIn? You got a connect. It's a lot of folk. I got 3,200, okay? And I got about 200 of them because of Nick. So I'm just going to do my 10. That's the best I can give you, but I'm going to give it. I'm going to do it. It's a good idea.
Well, I'm going to follow your 10 because I bet you got some interesting people in your network who are doing great things.
They are interesting, Nick, to say the very least, okay? When you deal with me, you are dealing with definitely an interesting group. Interesting group. So, Nick, Nick, question for you, because I always have 1,000 questions. Do you have any questions, Nick? Anything?
So questions for you. Let me think. Yeah, what do you got? Yeah, tell me if you got one ready, and I'll think of one for you.
No, Nick, the next thing that I wanted to know, so I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said it was really important for teachers to really look at the skills that they know they have and then look for jobs that fit those skills. But is there a specific position that you think right off the bat teachers may want to pursue?
I mean, I think the most obvious one is this instructional designer position. And a lot of teachers come to me and they say, Nick, do I need to get a degree in instructional design if I've been teaching for a couple of years? And I generally say no. I think that the skills transfer. I am, if you follow me on LinkedIn, I am a big discourager of expensive degree programs. I think those are disproportionately creating more inequalities in the job market. And, I think we could spend a whole session on that, Zachary. But, I think that the less formal schooling you can go to, the better. And I do think that there are so many ways to learn things. And I tell you, like, I put up this post the other day on unpaid internships, and it really touched a nerve with, my community. We had several thousand people liking and a couple hundred commenting. And I think there's just so much fear that, I'm not going to have enough skills to get the job I want. So therefore I got to keep skilling up. But it's also like the racial and gender lens is real. And I've had a lot of women, a lot of Black friends who've been like, look, you don't understand. Like, I do need that degree because I need to look good for that employer, or because I'm competing against a lot. So look, I know this is a complicated thing. I just feel like if you're going to go to grad school, don't pay for it. Don't go into debt. And
don't go into debt thinking that you'll get a job that's going to get you out of debt. Yeah. Unfortunately, that isn't how it typically works for most people.
It's hard, but I think a lot of people just don't know that, right? I think that what's scary to me is how predatory the whole system is. Like, we're so conditioned to think we got to go get that extra degree. We're so conditioned to like, I don't feel like I have the confidence to do this job, or I can't compete, so I got to get this degree, and that'll give me that leg up. But really, what I can tell you, being a professor in at an Ivy League school, is that most of these schools are they're just brands, right? The brands do matter, but they're so bad at preparing you with skills and opportunities. Like, you could do a better job building your own brand on LinkedIn if you just spend 3 months and like getting help from a guidance counselor in a grad program about your next job, right? Like, that's an unequivocal better use of time than trying to figure out. So I'm not going to say that brands don't matter. I think they do. I think we're a very brand conscious world. I just worry that like the cost of that experience is so dangerous for people that, maybe, that do want, especially in our case, like I'm working with a lot of folks who want to have careers in social impact, and those starting salaries are not that great. And so just trying to balance those expectations with what the job market can really yield is tough. It's really tough.
It is very tough, but you say brands matter, but you are the brand too, right? You are the brand as well, and I really want more.
Oh. I think we lost you, Zachary. Can't hear you. Still no. Maybe I'll read a question here from Craig.
Did I come back?
Yeah, now you're back. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, it is a great question from Craig. Let me pull it up just in case I go out again. I have no idea what that was. It was, maybe it was a magic signal from the multiverse of madness.
Friday night. It's Friday night. That's what it is.
Here's a great question from Craig.
Okay, so Craig is saying, do we see much of a trend where skills matter more than credentials? I see this in the tech sector, but in education, social impact, still not great and a long way to go. Second, if so many teachers are leaving due to burnout and so many structural challenges, what will happen to education in general? I don't know. I feel like Zachary, you should take the second question because I'm worried about that, but I'm happy to.
I'll tell you what's going to happen, and I'm going to tell you the two scenarios. I think about this a lot. I'm glad you asked, Craig.
You want to go first, or you want me to go?
Oh, you can go with the first part. What do you think? Do these skills matter more than the credentials?
I mean, Craig, it's a good question. I know we talk about this a lot. I think the tide is turning, and I think LinkedIn allows us to demonstrate skills in new ways to employers that before was pretty gated with, how credentials and brands work. But when I got into this work 10 years ago, and I know, Craig, you were there with me, like I had a lot of outsized expectations about how possible it was to compete with the big brands for education. And boy, did I get beaten up. Boy, was I wrong. Like, I just felt like, I miscalculated how powerful these brands were. And it's really sad. I mean, look, Zachary, I've taught about 60 graduate courses in my day, these short 1-credit courses at Georgetown, GW, Columbia. And I love my students, but these institutions are so toxic. Like, they've become glorified real estate companies. They are not helping the students out. They're not honest about how much these things cost. And
how much debt they're putting children in, who become adults.
So, I don't know when it ends. I don't know what the end game is, because I still think that we're so seduced as a collective by these brands. Everybody I know still wants to go to an Ivy League school. And if they can, they can do it, then so maybe the tide's changing a little bit with some of these ed tech opportunities, right? But Coursera didn't quite get there. edX didn't quite get there. And I think we're still looking for some of the big, imaginative, kind of big bets that haven't panned out yet in ed tech that we'll see. I think the pandemic may have changed some of this, right? If you are paying $200,000 for a grad degree and you are taking those classes virtually and your professor doesn't know how to use Zoom and you don't set foot on campus, and no money is invested in quality learning, like suddenly the rug is pulled, and everybody's like, wait a minute, what is going on here? So I think there have been some hard questions asked, and I'm hopeful that, maybe some good will come from this.
And so for the second part, Craig, I'm an extremely political person, because that's just the nature of my life. I don't think that I'm to say this plainly, I don't have the ability to not be political, being a double minority in the United States. There's too much at stake for my existence to not be. But I'm going to try very hard to not be political with this answer as I give it to you. So I say that to say that my politics have to shape my lens and how I see this, because I see this as a political move. Data shows that a lot of the things that are affecting teachers and making them leave go beyond just simple burnout. There are conditions being put in place, laws in certain states being put in place that are making the work of teachers extremely more difficult. the voice of the teacher during the COVID-19 pandemic, their requests, their needs were not as paramount as the needs of other stakeholders in education, which has contributed to them making the decision to leave the field in large numbers. That's why you see so many leave right now. The push to, I'm trying to find the right word. I don't know if the right word would be censor. The push to alter what the autonomy that teachers have around their instructional decisions is also pushing teachers to also want to leave. So when you have a shortage of education or of teachers in the public school space, when these types of pressures aren't being put in the private school spaces, some of the charter school spaces, it leads you to think, is this going to lead to the privatization of public education in general, which has been a part of a political agenda for about 20 years. So I do believe that you're going to have fewer teachers. You're going to have school systems try to figure out what they can do about it. That's going to be either the certification of non-certified individuals at a rapid rate, or people that don't have the training and may not have the skills to be effective in the classroom, which they may be able to get, not saying that they won't, but that's going to be at the beginning an issue that school systems will face. Am I going out again?
You're good. You're good.
Okay. And or you're going to have a large number of children being taught by one person. So you can expect to see class sizes go up to like 50 kids for one teacher, with the focus then being on, like Nick talked about, asynchronous and blended learning. That'll be the two options that school systems are going to have, because they will not have the personnel to fill the regular classroom sizes and classroom requirements. Yeah. And it really does concern me.
Yeah, I mean, man, that's a really challenging, sad view, I feel like. And like,
it's definitely not happy, Nick.
It's not happy. And I mean, Zachary, what is the answer? Because I think, like, to me, I'm torn, because I want to be able to say to all these amazing teachers, like, your skills are valuable. If the public school system in this country doesn't value those skills, if parents are trying to tell you what to teach and administrators are forcing you to be in really like public health threatening situations, you should have the ability to do other things with your career, because frankly, you deserve it and deserve to be paid better above and all. But at the same time, it's like, well, then what? Then like, once the great teachers leave, as I'm sure they're all doing, where does that leave us? And the picture you just painted is
well, that's the reality. It's very tough, right? It's very tough. I'm also conflicted. And but this is the thing. We missed a golden opportunity to deconstruct the things in education that are problematic. We failed to do it. Like, education as a whole also failed to do it. Yeah. Bad leadership has always been a problem and plaguing schools across the country. And it's not because leaders don't want to be effective. It's that they don't know how to be effective. And education hasn't put the appropriate amount of money into the training that it needs to get principals to learn how to be better leaders and managers of people, how to lead with a servant's heart, how to really care and genuinely cultivate relationships with adults, because it all factors and trickles out. We should have deconstructed those problems during the pandemic, went back in face to face even stronger, and we didn't do it. And now we're suffering with that, with the onslaught of a full court press to destabilize the system. We should have destabilized it ourselves. Educators should have been in control. We should have broken it down, and we should have rebuilt it better. And we didn't do that. So even though I'm torn too, I want to empower everyone out there who has an urge to move, with the hope that there will be a rising of other people who may be in the tech field who want to switch over to education and who will do it and do a great job. So hopefully it's going to be reciprocal. I don't think it will be, but I hope it will be.
Well, it's certainly, thinking about your version of a model where more students per teacher will require a level of technology potentially to get right. And I do think there are opportunities for, I'm very wary of like tech bros solving all the problems of education, but I do think that there are opportunities there, and in a way, what you're kind of saying is politicians won't have a choice if, that's kind of the potential state here, is that this gets so ugly so quickly that we need to get creative in other ways. So, but yeah, there's some great comments coming in. Should we read some
This
here?
is great from Becky, right? Like, yes, Becky, thank God you exist with a positive note, right? You know, a lot of educators are going to find ed tech companies that will allow them to make a bigger impact and start to address the larger problems that made their classroom jobs so difficult and made student access to adequate education so hard. The institutional intelligence teachers will bring to these organizations, I believe, will make a big difference in this space. She's right. Like, that is it.
That's a great point. Yeah, and it is true. The more teachers work at ed tech companies, right, the more this transition happens, the more the ed tech companies will be grounded in real users, real humans, and really think about product from a really different standpoint. Because we know that when engineers, technology people build things in silos, it very rarely works and resonates for that human experience. So that's a great point, Becky, is that if with this outflow happening, there's a lot of potential for, I mean, I know I'm seeing it in my own company, right? Like we have 3 or 4 teachers on staff and they have just completely transformed how we think about building our online learning platform to deliver adult learning workshops and courses. And they're always pushing us to try new things and to think about new features. So I suspect that will happen manyfold across the sector as we go here.
I love it. That just made my day, Becky. You gave me like that glimmer of hope, right? Like you just, added in. You just gave me that glimmer of hope. I love it because that's so true. That just made my day. Like that made my day.
Good.
And so, Nick, we've been at this for about an hour. Guys watching, if there are any other questions, drop them in the chat. We are going to be back next Friday, same time in an audio room, and everyone in the audio room gets to talk, like everybody. So have you done an audio room yet, Nick?
I mean, I've been in one, but I haven't led one. So I know we're going to have some fun next week doing this, thanks to our program. So any tips for folks who might want to join us for that?
Get a drink, get it like a cocktail, make it a Friday happy hour. Like, you know what? Hopefully it's going to be good and cold. You can be at home, make your favorite cocktail and just join the room and chat and talk and have a great time. I think that would be, to me, that's how I've always enjoyed audio rooms. I use this amazing new app called Fanbase. Love Fanbase. It's a startup app. It's meant to be like your Clubhouse, Instagram, TikTok, all in one weird platform that's really well curated, well done. I'm actually going to make a little video about this and post it this weekend, talking about Clubhouse because LinkedIn has a great, they've encouraged us to amplify Black voices. This was done by Isaac Hayes III. He is the son of the Isaac Hayes that you actually know. For the young people, Chef from South Park. For the old people, Chef. And so his son, has created this great app, and it is really great. And their audio rooms are amazing. And so we have a lot of fun in there. So I'm excited to see that come to LinkedIn as we talk about our experiences, both of us as LinkedIn creators, and you talk to us about your questions for the program and just about how you may want to build a brand and leverage platforms like this for your career goals.
I love it, Zachary. So I'll help set that up, and we'll promote this a little more in advance this time, so that you all can plan ahead. But yeah, I think same time next week we'll try and do it at 6 p.m. on Friday. And so tell your friends. And like, what's great about this format is that you don't have to be on camera. You just come in, you talk, you ask your questions, and you're part of the show just like us. And everybody's kind of on equal footing. So I think we're excited and looking forward to a great conversation.
A good time. So, Nick, thank you so much. And it's been awesome. Yep, we got another one. Thanks for coming back from a data nerd standpoint. ERP plus IT plus N minus user divided by education equals true business intelligence. I don't know what any of that means, but I know it's some good stuff. So, Nick, thank you, my friend, for joining. What a great time. Enjoy your weekend.
What a fun time. Thanks, everybody. Great conversation. Appreciated it.